Well, I would like to welcome a good day to everyone that's joining this webinar, and myself, um, everyone at the AD Solutions team at Manage Engine, just want to thank you for your time and spending a little bit of time with us. This morning we have, or I guess this morning for some and the afternoon for others, we have what I consider to be a very, very, very good topic. We at Manage Engine try to put together topics that meet the needs of Active Directory administrators in organizations throughout the world. And we all feel that the concept of tracking Active Directory changes is extremely important for many different reasons. And as we go through the webinar today, we're going to be covering those reasons. But I think for most Active Directory administrators, the need to track these changes is most important for troubleshooting and making sure that we understand what's going on behind the scenes. Before we get started with the webinar, I do just want to take a couple of seconds just to give you a little bit of background on who I am, so you know who you're listening to. My name is Derek Melber, and I am the technical evangelist for the AD Solutions team here at Manage Engine. And really what that means is I get the opportunity to go throughout the world and really help administrators and organizations better understand Active Directory and also just become more efficient with Active Directory. We've also put an emphasis this year on our World Tour seminar series on security of Active Directory as well. So we really stress the importance of all the different aspects of Active Directory and how we interface with Active Directory and how we as a knowledge base can help administrators with Active Directory. I do want to point you to some resources as well. One of the resources is the Active Directory blog. If you hit the Manage Engine website and go out to the blog area, it's called Pit Stop or Community, there's an entire blog on Active Directory. Myself and others on the AD Solutions team, we post every single week to the blog. And the blog is really not an idea for us anyway to promote our products as much as it is an idea that we can answer questions that we get from webinars and seminars throughout the year, as well as just share information with you about how to become more efficient with Active Directory. There's also on the main landing page of our website a security hardening location, so that's also a very important place for you to go to get information. I also wanted to point you on this slide to kind of where we'll be over the next couple of months. Notice there that we will be doing a user conference in Dubai in early March, and I'll talk more about that towards the end of this particular webinar. So with no further ado, I'm just going to jump right into the materials so that we can get started and you can get back to your day. This topic of change monitoring is something that is very difficult to achieve, and myself as well as many other Active Directory administrators that I've interfaced with have tried to accomplish this task using the current Microsoft solution. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to go into Active Directory and group policy, and we're going to set up auditing. I'm going to show you how to set up advanced auditing as well, and we'll talk about the differences between auditing and advanced auditing, really focusing on which operating systems are affected and what's the benefit to you of using one versus the other. And then we're going to, after we've set up auditing and we get change monitoring in motion, we're going to go into the security log, and we're actually going to look for some common events that all administrators want to track. And we're going to see if we can use the Microsoft solution in order to find what we need and get reports. We are going to run into some roadblocks and stumbling blocks, and in some cases some pretty tall walls, but we're going to try desperately to utilize the Microsoft solution. And then at the end, I'm going to just take a very short time and show you the AD Audit Plus way, the Manage Engine way of actually monitoring, reporting, and using real-time alerts to get the information that you need for change monitoring. Now, before we get started with all of this, we need to talk about what change monitoring is. I have my own definition, and you may have your definition, but this is really what we're going to try to do today, and that is we are going to try to track changes to any Active Directory object that changes. Now, of course, most of us on a daily basis deal with users, groups, and computers, but obviously there's more to Active Directory than just those three objects. You know, we have many things that are related to Active Directory, such as schema changes. We have group policy and group policy client-side extensions. Obviously, within group policy, we have security, we have passwords, we have configurations. We have so many different areas within a group policy object, over 15,000 individual configurations, that we need to incorporate group policy as an Active Directory component that we want to track changes to. And of course, any of us that have had to deal with someone going into Active Directory, someone going into group policy and making a modification that we have to recover from, I think it's pretty clear that getting some type of a change monitoring system in place that we can go in and we can see what's changed with group policy could really be a huge benefit in the troubleshooting of those issues. So really, when it comes to Active Directory and the changes, it's everything. So I really want a system that is going to give me, the administrator, the ability to see these changes, because without something that's tracking or monitoring these changes, it's almost impossible to know what's changing in Active Directory. But this isn't the end of what I need to do with change monitoring. Not only do I need the full gamut of objects to be tracked, I need all the details around those objects to be tracked. Because if I'm going to use the system as a troubleshooting system and a reporting system and a compliance tool, I need to have the details around the changes also tracked. So I need to know who made the change. I need to know when they made the change, because of course, as we know, when it comes to changes and seeing patterns of consequences from those changes, we need to know when that change has occurred to make sure we know which change is causing the problem. And of course, if we're going to use this as a troubleshooting tool, we really need to know what the old value was and what the new value is. So if we need to put the value back, we know what that old value is. So this, I think, is really aggressive. The idea of getting every object and all the details around the object is not an easy task. I don't think there's anyone on this webinar that doesn't want this. It's just you may have tried to do this already and you just fell short. But hopefully today we're not going to fall short. We're actually going to be able to get you to the point where you're going to be able to do exactly what I'm recommending here for the change monitoring definition. Now, in order to get this set up, we first of all have to go in and set up auditing. Now, this term auditing has a lot of different definitions. The definition in this context is what Microsoft termed as auditing within the operating system. So in order to set up auditing, we need to go into group policy. Now, of course, group policy is a huge component of Active Directory, and we're going to go into the security settings within a group policy object, as you see here the path on your screen, and we're going to set up the audit policy. Now, instead of just kind of talking over it, let's actually jump into the operating system. This is my domain controller. It's a Windows Server 2008 R2 domain controller, and we're going to go into group policy, and you'll see here that I have my domain. And at the domain level, I have some GPOs, and I have a GPO here, as you see, for the audit policy. Now, notice a couple of things. First of all, this webinar is on Active Directory changes. However, towards the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you that a solution can be in place that not only tracks your Active Directory changes, but also tracks changes to files, changes that are made to different components of your server. So in the context of the overall picture of change monitoring, not just of Active Directory, but your Windows environment, you may want to have a GPO linked to the domain. If you're only concerned about changes to Active Directory, you can certainly just link a GPO to the domain controllers. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, you will notice that I am not going to modify the default domain policy. The reason I'm not going to modify the default domain policy is really, let's be honest, I don't trust Microsoft. And what do I mean by that? Well, Microsoft has a lot of hotfixes. They push out service packs, and we don't always know the details that are inside of those service packs and hotfixes. It would be very easy for Microsoft to put in a small bit of code to reset the 2 default GPOs back to the original settings. And if that were to occur, it would wipe out all of my settings, my audit policy settings. So I choose to put my settings in a different GPO. That way Microsoft isn't going to reset it back. They've never done that, but it would be very easy for them to do that. So I just kind of use my own. Now, if we edit this GPO that I've created for my audit policy, and we go down under our security settings, local policies, you'll see that we have the audit policy right here. Now, inside of the audit policy, there are 9 different configurations that you can make for different areas of auditing. As I just mentioned just 1 minute ago, I want to audit more than just Active Directory. I want to audit file, folder access. I want to audit some things with my servers. So I have more than just Active Directory auditing in place. That's why I have so many areas set to success and failure. Some of you may only want to track Active Directory, or you may want to track a subset of what I have here. So what we have at Manage Engine is we've put together a document for you. The document is really a guide to help you, the administrator, know which audit policy settings you need to put in place in order to track your desired settings. So if you email me, I'll give you my email again towards the end of the webinar, or email some of the other people on the AD Solutions technical team. We'd be more than happy to send you a link to this document so you have the document, you can read through it, and that way you're getting just what you want set up. The reason you want to limit what you're auditing is really for 2 reasons. One, everything that you set up in here for the audit policy is going to add information to your security log. If you add information to your security log, the log's going to get bigger, faster, and if you're auditing information you're never going to review, now you have to sift through the security log of all the stuff you don't need in order to find stuff that you do need. So trying to keep this limited is really the best thing. Now, once you decide through the document what you want to audit, then you have to make the decision if you want to do success, failure, or, as I have for most of my settings, success and failure. Well, the success, I think, is pretty obvious. The success is going to tell us that something changed, which that's our definition. But in some cases, we also want to look at the failures. And what do the failures tell us? Well, let's just take one easy example. Because we're dealing with Active Directory, and Active Directory is the authentication tool, I want to track when users fail to authenticate. They may fail to authenticate because the user account's locked out, they have a bad password, and I want to know the history of these failed logon attempts. Well, what's that going to tell me? Well, failed logon attempts might be telling you that you've been attacked. If I have a string of logon attempts with a bad password of a single account over and over again, or even multiple accounts in a series, that might indicate that someone is trying to brute force into Active Directory. And in most cases, most organizations have their threshold for the lockout pretty low, and they're going to lock out accounts. So the failure actually tells us quite a bit, and of course it's not only for logons, it could be for account management, many different things. So I need to go into group policy, set up the audit policy for the correct success and failure, and that is step 1. Now, with regard to these steps, many administrators have attempted to do this, and I'm not going to rule myself out. Guarantee you, when Active Directory first came out, I went in and tried to do this. I went into the policy and I set up the audit tracking. Then, of course, I went to Active Directory, I made some modifications, I went to my security log, and I found there wasn't much information in there. So I tried over and over again to get this auditing to track Active Directory changes. And what I found was that just setting up the auditing wasn't enough. I actually had to go in and set up more than just the auditing. And I found that the additional information that you need to set up is somewhat of a hidden configuration. You're not going to find these settings documented very many places. And the second type of setting that you need to set up in order to track Active Directory changes is actually the SACL, the Security Access Control List. The Security Access Control List, as you see here on your screen, is the auditing tab underneath the permissions of the properties of the domain. Now, instead of trying to describe to you how to get there, let me just show you how to get there. Here in Active Directory, I'm going to go to Active Directory Users and Computers. I'm going to go to my domain node, go to Properties, Security, Advanced, Auditing. This is where you set up these secret configurations. In here, I am going to tell the system that I want to track computers, groups, organizational units, users, group policy container, and group policy objects. So now notice that I am matching in the auditing configuration of the security settings what I said was my definition. I want to track all aspects of Active Directory, and I want to track it for no matter who touches it. So no matter who goes into Active Directory, I want to track when they try to do something to that object. Oops, sorry. I accidentally hit the mute button. I apologize. So let me take 2 steps back. So advanced auditing is a technology that Microsoft put in place in Server 2008 and beyond. Advanced auditing gives you the ability to see more information, deeper information, and broader information compared to normal auditing. Now, Microsoft tied advanced auditing was Security Compliance Manager. Now, if none of you have heard of Security Compliance Manager, I'm going to encourage that you go and you look up Security Compliance Manager and you download it. It's a free tool from Microsoft, a very, very powerful tool from Microsoft that I think everybody could benefit from by downloading the tool. The tool is based on what's called security baselines. So again, just go do a search on Security Compliance Manager, download it, take a look. It's extremely powerful. In there you'll see Advanced Auditing. Now, Advanced Auditing is a little hidden from where you see normal auditing. Now, if we jump back to my domain controller and I go back to group policy, let's remember where we were with the audit policy. So I was here with the audit policy under security settings. And if you go down under security settings below local policies all the way here, you'll see the advanced audit policy configuration. And the audit policies here look a little different, and they are much different compared to the audit policy. Now, the audit policy, if we remember, if I go to account management, it's just a global success failure for account management. Under my advanced audit policy, account management has different subcategories, and that's what these are referred to. So not only can advanced auditing give you broader and deeper information, it can also help you reduce the size of your security logs in general. Because notice, I have a couple of areas that are not configured, which would automatically be included in the default audit policy configurations. But advanced auditing allows me to pick and choose what I want to track. Therefore, I'm not getting as much information in the security log that I don't care about. Again, these are going to be success and failure, so it's the same kind of idea. Now, where can I use advanced auditing compared to normal auditing? Even though advanced auditing was released in Server 2008, it's really only viable Server 2008 R2 and greater. So if you have your domain controllers at Server 2008 R2 and greater, those domain controllers can use advanced auditing. Well, what if you have a mixture? Maybe you have some Server 2003 R2 and some Server 2008 R2 and even 2012 domain controllers. Well, your older domain controllers can handle the auditing, and the newer ones can handle the advanced auditing, and you can have a mixture in the same domain. Because it's group policy that's configuring it, you can target one type of domain controller with auditing and the other type of domain controller with advanced auditing, and it all goes to the security log. So we want to take advantage of the technology wherever possible, and we can certainly do that because of the way that the advanced auditing and the auditing are set up. Now, just like the audit policy, the advanced auditing has some complexity to it in terms of what you want to set up depending on what you want to track. In that document that I was talking about earlier, we not only have auditing and the description of what to set up for what you want to track, we also have advanced auditing. So again, email me and I will be more than happy to send you the document to help you set up all of this. Now, where are we at? We have gone into group policy, set up auditing and or advanced auditing, and linked that group policy object to the domain. We've then gone into Active Directory users and computers, and at the domain level set the security access control list so that we're tracking all the different types of objects that we want to track for no matter who accesses that object. Once we have this group of settings established and we make a change to Active Directory, that change is going to show up in your security log. So we now have our first step of our change monitoring in place. The audited events are going to show up in the security log, which is in Event Viewer, as we know. And if we go look at my security log in my domain, so I'm going to come over here to Administrative Tools, Event Viewer, Security Log, you will see that I have 144,000 events that I've been tracking. No matter what I do in Active Directory, this log will show that information. If you have 10 domain controllers, you're going to have 10 unique security logs. Each domain controller has its own unique security log, so that when a change occurs on any particular domain controller, that domain controller tracks the change in its own log. I'm hoping you're seeing that this is kind of a bump in the road, because some of you might have 50 or even 100 domain controllers. No matter how many domain controllers you have, that's how many unique security logs you have. The security log is not replicated between domain controllers. So if you have 10 domain controllers and an average security log has 145,000 events, that means at any one time you're going to have about 1.45 million events that you're going to have to go through. That's where we come up with some of the issues. Now, Microsoft has given us some technologies to help us get through some of this information. Microsoft did update the Event Viewer starting with Vista and Server 2008, giving us some new functionality. So let's go look at some of these new technologies to see if the technologies can help us get through the mass amount of information in these logs. Now again, I have around 145,000 events that I have to get through. So instead of just trying to generate reports, let's just try to find something in the log. So let's pick something that I think all of us as Active Directory administrators want to do. And that is, we want to know when the domain admins group changes membership. I mean, the domain admins group has a lot of power. It's used quite a bit. And because of its importance to the management of Active Directory and the entire domain, we need to know who has membership in it. So let's try to find the last time that the domain admins group changed membership using the Microsoft solution. So I'm going to come in here to the options for the security log. And Microsoft, first of all, gave us this filter option. Now, the filter option will go into the security log. We don't really know the event ID, but we don't really care about the event ID. We just care about domain admins. So it would be sure nice to be able to type here in the keywords. Now, no matter how many times you try to type in to this box, you won't be able to, because it's a drop-down list. And the drop-down list doesn't have anything to do with domain admins. So unfortunately, the filter isn't going to help us. What else do we have? Well, we have a find option. This is an entry text box. So I'm going to put domain admins, and we're going to see if we can find domain admins in our log. Now remember, you will have to do this for every domain controller that you have if you're trying to find a particular entry, because any of the domain controllers can update Active Directory, and only the domain controller that updated Active Directory will have that event in the log. Now you're seeing that this can take a little bit of time. Imagine multiplying this time times the number of domain controllers. Now we're not only having a bump in the road, now we have a little bit of a wall built up. And many of you have attempted to do this in your own security logs, trying to find information. You found it's not an easy task. It's a manual task that can take a lot of time. Now, Another feature that Microsoft put in the new event viewer is something called a custom view. And the custom view allows you to go in, and I'll show you the settings here, and specify the log and the event IDs. So you will see that I have all the event IDs associated with group changes, adding someone to the group and removing someone to the group. And when I have this, it is going to show for me the changes. But notice, no changes show up. Does that mean I don't have any changes in the security log? That's exactly what it means. Now, in my environment, obviously, I don't make that many changes because this is a demo environment. But if I were to go into group policy and I were to change the membership of this group in some way, let's say that I remove a user and I go back to the log and I refresh it, that is going to show up in my custom view. So you can see that this is pulling information. Is this a subset of just those events from the security log? It is. But I'm still stuck with my options of the filter and the find. And you're going to find that in your environment, the majority of changes that are occurring in Active Directory, in most cases, are group changes. So this is going to be a pretty large log itself. But I think I've uncovered yet another issue, which is the size of the log issue. Because if I'm only showing a couple of changes to groups in my log, well, where are all the changes that have occurred over time? Well, the log is set up to overwrite events as needed. This is a very common configuration. So that means when the log gets full, the older objects will leave the log and the newer objects will enter the log. And what's happening is you're losing information from your log. So this becomes a huge concern. But what if we can increase the size of the log? That could help. So let's go see how big we can make the log. Now if we go back here to our security log and we go to properties, you'll see that there's an entry here for the log size. It doesn't really give us information about how big it can get. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to back to group policy, and we're going to go into a setting that tells us what the log size is. So if I come in here to event log, maximum security log size, we have an explain tab. Now this is directly from Microsoft. Microsoft says that there is a theoretical limit of 4 gig. So they're not telling you to use 4 gig. They're saying, well, it could be 4 gig, but we recommend practically to use 300 meg. Now, in today's storage capacity, how big is 300 meg? I'm sure that each of you right now could go into a drawer, your computer bag, whatever, and pull out a USB stick that's bigger than 300 meg. So 300 meg is not very big. So what is going to happen here is when the log fills up, and if I have my security log set up to overwrite events as needed, then I'm going to start to lose information. Currently, my log goes back to the 26th at 4:30 p.m. That's not even a full day. So my log is only doing, with very minimal inputs, because it's a demo environment, it's not even giving me a full day of information. So this becomes a huge stumbling block. Many people tell me, especially when I do live seminars, they're like, well, use PowerShell. Well, how is PowerShell going to dig into the security log when the security log doesn't even have the information in it? What we really need is we need some type of a system, some type of an option to archive the log. Well, Does the event viewer back up the security log when it gets full? Now, some of you are saying sure, and some of you are saying no, it doesn't back up the log. Now, this version of Windows that I'm using here in my domain is not a special version of Windows. As I said, it's a Server 2008 R2 domain controller. If I go to my security log properties, you will see an option here that says archive the log when full. That's right. Microsoft added this technology in Server 2008. They didn't really market it, but they added the technology. Not only did they add the technology, they gave you the ability to come under here to administrative templates, Windows components, event log, security, and you can set up that the log can be backed up automatically, and you can even specify the log file path. So Microsoft now has a technology for you to back up the security log automatically. The way the technology works is whichever log path you specify, it will put a file in there with the date timestamp of when it archived the log. Now, I was in Sydney, Australia last July, and there was a gentleman in the seminar that said that he had set this up and was actually tracking the logs. On average, in his environment, he would have a domain controller, each domain controller generate about 10 logs a day. That's how much activity was going on. Now let's think about this. If you're using this technology or any other technology to archive logs, and you have 10 logs per day per domain controller, that means that you will have approximately per day 15 million events that you're going to have to go through. Because if you have approximately 150,000 events times 10 domain controllers, that's 1.5 times 10 logs per day per domain controller, that is 15 million events per day that you're going to have to go through. And if we're looking for a change to domain admins, and that change took place, let's say, 30 days ago, that means you have approximately 450 million events that you're going to have to go through in order to find the last time that your domain admins group changed membership. I think we just built the wall higher. Now we have a huge problem. We have volumes of events that we have to sift through. We have volumes of events and volumes of files, because remember, these are archived files. So how do I get an archived file into a format that I can even search? Well, you're going to have to come here to security and open a saved log. Per day, if you have 10 domain controllers, you have approximately 100 logs per day that you would have to import. Now we are seeing that volume is going to create a huge problem with this. The volume of the information that we're dealing with is somewhat overwhelming. But what if we could put the information that we want into a central log? That way, we only have to look at one log, and we only have to archive one log. Is that possible? Yes, Microsoft has that technology too. That technology is called event log forwarding, and it utilizes subscriptions. Now, the way the subscriptions work is you go and specify the computers, this would be the list of your domain controllers, that you want to get information from out of the security log, and then you specify which log and what events. The output of this will show up in your forwarded events log. So now you can consolidate the events from multiple security logs into one log, but even when you do that, you're still going to be stuck with the fact that you can only filter the current log or find, and the log is going to fill up, so it's going to archive. So we still have the same limitations even though we have it consolidated. Because also, remember, We're talking about one group. What about all the groups? What about users? What about all these other changes that are occurring? So I'm going to have a ton of these centralized logs in order to fulfill my overall goal, which is to really look at every change that's occurring in Active Directory. Yet we keep building the wall higher. But let's change the philosophy. Right now, we keep talking about generating logs and manually looking through the log. What if we were to have the system tell us when the change occurred instead of us going and finding when the change occurred? What if we could have an email sent to us when an event occurs? Is that possible? Does Microsoft have that technology? Well, again, this is not a special version of the system. Any event has the ability to have a task associated with it, and one of the options is to send an email. Now we're getting somewhere. So I can set up an action for every event. So I can set up an action to email me when someone is added to or removed from a group. But this has to be at the group level. This cannot be at the domain admin's group level. There's no option for that. Now, how often do all the other groups change compared to domain admins? Oh gosh, that's another problem, right? I mean, how many emails do you want to get that you have to go through and see if it's for domain admins before you get frustrated and turn off this task? So even though we have the task here, it's not going to be granular enough for us to actually know what's going on. So even though we have this capability, again, we're kind of stuck. So in the end, even though the event viewer has some awesome new technologies, we have issues. What are those issues? Well, the log's small. It causes too many archive logs. We have a multitude of logs unless we consolidate logs. And even when we consolidate, we don't have any reporting capabilities. We don't have any way of actually getting through the massive amount of events that we have to get the information. Alerting isn't detailed enough because we all have tasks that we want to track. I mean, what are some common things we want to track? Most admins that I know want to know when any user is created. They want to know when group policy changes occur, especially security changes like the password policy. Most admins want to know when critical groups that have elevated privileges change membership. Domain admins, SharePoint admins, Exchange admins. You know, if you have vSphere, there's going to be a vSphere admin. I mean, anything like that. Plus, difficult configurations like service accounts, we also need to track these changes. Because when a service account gets changed, it could cause a huge problem because that service may no longer function. So we have quite a few things that we need to track. And I'm guaranteeing you, no matter how hard you look in this event viewer, there is no option to generate report. Zero option. I showed you the best of breed, which is find. That is not a way to get the information out of these logs. Well, what is a way to get the information log? What is going to be our best bet to get reports? Well, in my opinion, it's AD Audit Plus. AD Audit Plus is about as simple can get. Let me show you. If you want to know when the last time domain admins changed membership, you simply go to Reports. We have a predefined report for modified admin groups. Now, over the last 30 days, my domain admins changed on January 15th. Now, today is January 27th. That means that this change happened 12 days ago. Imagine how many events, how many logs you would have to go through to find this entry. If you want to know all the times in the last 6 months that domain admins has changed membership, you simply come in here and look at the report. There's a report for this. I'm going back all the way to August 2015. How powerful is this? Could you imagine trying to go through all of the archived logs back to August in 2015? I mean, if we're having 10 archived logs per DC per day, I can't even imagine how many logs that is. We're talking so much information. So AD Audit Plus becomes a tool that allows us, the administrators, to see the history of changes. And you'll notice that I have user, group, computer, organizational unit, group policy object, DNS, permissions, configuration of the auditing, plus I have logons. This tool has over 125 predetermined reports. I can look at logon failures. So over the last, yesterday, do I have any logon failures? No. Let's look at December 2015. In December 2015, I had all of these logon failures. Tell me this isn't important. Tell me if I'm doing forensics, I need to know why someone failed to log on. I can look at account management. I can look at all these different areas. But really a tool like this, for me, shows its weight when it comes to customization. Because sure, enterprise admins and domain admins are important privileged groups. But what about the other groups in your environment? If I go and look at my report over the last 6 months, you are going to see that I not only have enterprise admins and domain admins, I also have some other types of groups. See if I can find one here. Such as finance managers. Wait a minute. Finance managers? That's right. Finance managers in my domain has privileges. So I need this group to have the ability to be tracked. How did I add that? If I go to configuration in AD Audit, and I go to group modification, and I go to a default group, a default report called modified admin groups, you can see that just by adding it in, I can put in any group that I want into the report. This means that when any of these groups change membership, it's going to show up in the report. This is powerful. This is powerful. This is getting me to see information that's changing an Active Directory through a simple report that would almost be impossible without a tool like this, because I am going through millions of events to pull out these reports. So AD Audit Plus has its own database of all the events that have occurred across your domain controllers, and you're able to tap into that database to pull up these reports. Now, at this point, I've showed you that AD Audit has many default reports, and I can customize those reports. Well, let's put the tool to a real test. The real test is I'm going to go over an example that is kind of broader, that I think all of us have to deal with. All of us have service accounts, and those service accounts are configured on one or more servers throughout your environment, possibly one or more services. When it comes to service accounts, we rarely, if ever, reset the password because, in all honesty, we don't know where all the service accounts are configured. But if a service account password changes and we don't correct it on all the servers, well, we now have phone calls coming in saying that the service has failed. Well, we know this is a problem. We at Manage Engine know this is a problem. So what we have created for you is part of our free Active Directory tools. You can download this from our website, absolutely free. we've added a new service account management component. You simply come in here, specify the servers that you want to get service accounts from, and then go get service accounts. The tool, without an agent, using the credentials you put in here, will go out to all those servers and pull back all the service accounts that are configured on all the servers you selected. Now, some of the services and service accounts will be default or they'll be built in, so you want to filter those out. Notice that I have 4 service accounts on the servers I selected. I can export this for documentation, and here's where it becomes full circle. I can take this list, go into Audit Plus, go to configuration, go to user modification because a service account's a user, and I can create a new report. I've already done this for you. The new report is a service account modification report. You specify user being modified, all the different ways that it can change. Then you add in your service accounts here. That is how simple this tool is. Now I have a report so that when any service account is modified, it shows up in the report. But I not only have a report for it, if anyone were to go into my service accounts that are in the report and modify it, that is going to show up on my dashboard right here immediately, because I also have an alert set up for this report. This is where the power comes in for you, the admin. Imagine you getting, for every critical change in your environment, an email saying what changed. How powerful is that for you? You no longer have to go and look at reports. You are going to be notified through email when your critical changes occur. As you'll see here, I have alerts set up for many different things. So whenever these things change, a permission change to a group policy object, an ACL change to an OU, delegation, if the default administrator changes, if a modified admin group, user rights changes, fine-grained password, any of these changes, I'm going to get an email. This is the power of a tool like this. We need to have tools that can help us see things across the whole gamut of Active Directory. That's why we have 125 reports. But you need to customize it to your environment. We give the ability to customize default reports and customize your own reports. Then any report can have an alert associated with it. We are giving you the ability to see things that are very, very difficult to see without knowing what's going on behind the scenes. This is a tool that gives you insight into the complexity of Active Directory changes. And we're doing it through utilizing the security log that you already have there. Why reinvent the wheel? We're just taking that information. So we actually pushed beyond what we wanted with change monitoring, because now we have real-time alerting. We're setting up auditing and advanced auditing. We set up our security access control list. After doing that, any change that occurs in Active Directory goes into my security log. Audit Plus goes into your security logs, pulls out the events that are critical, and gives you the ability to report and alert on those events. This tool is a game changer for you in your environment. As an admin, it's a phenomenal troubleshooting tool. As an admin, it's an unbelievable tool giving you insight into things that are occurring that are very difficult, I will say impossible for you to know, that are changing, and you can take immediate action. Every single report that is generated has the ability, as we see here with reports, to be exported. Click, a couple of clicks, any report can be exported so you can meet your compliance requirements. This tool is designed to change the way administrators look at Active Directory. This tool is a tool that I think everyone needs. I don't care if you have 2 domain controllers and 1 administrator, or you have 25 domain controllers and 25 administrators. You need a tool like this. Now, throughout this particular webinar, we've been answering your questions along the way, so I appreciate your questions. I've seen some of them come through, and we have other team members that are answering those questions so that I can focus on the webinar. Now, if you do have any additional questions, also, you need to email me to get this document. You can email me at derek@manageengine.com, and I'd be more than happy to send you a couple of resources, one of them being this document that can help you set up auditing. We will also be in Dubai in early March. Myself and a couple of other team members will be talking about some different Active Directory solutions and the products that we have to solve those. On day 2, which will be March 8th, track 3, we'll be going through that. On your screen is a link to where you can go and you can register for this particular conference. I would love to see you there. I've been to Dubai multiple times, and again, I will be back there in early March, and please go register for the event, and at the event, please come up, introduce yourself to me, say, hey, I was at your webinar, and I'd love to meet you. It would be my pleasure to meet you. So please go register for the event. Also, what do we do from here? Well, not only register for the event, please go download AudAudit Plus. I want you to see how easy it is to install and configure to see these reports immediately. I guarantee you, after the download, the installation and configuration of AudAudit Plus takes less than 15 minutes. If you hit our ManageEngine.com website and just go to Active Directory, look at Auditing, there'll be a big red download button. Download it, and it is a fully functional tool, okay? This webinar will be recorded, so we will be getting you, if you email us, the link to the recording. We also have some recordings of previous webinars similar to this that are out there, so we can give you those links as well. Please visit our blog. Our blog is a great way for us to communicate with you, to exchange information with you. So we've given you quite a few resources. Hopefully this particular webinar has been enlightening to you, giving you deeper information about auditing, deeper information about security, as well as the tracking and monitoring of Active Directory changes. I'm going to quickly kind of peruse through the questions to see if there's anything I need to address, and it looks like the team has addressed these questions, and I thank you for that. What a great group of people to work with. So anyway, I want to definitely thank you for your time. ManageEngine and the AD Solutions team also want to thank you for your time. If you do have any questions beyond this webinar, please, that is my email. I encourage emails. I encourage questions, not only about the webinar. If you have questions about Active Directory, group policy, security, I'm an Active Directory MVP. I've been an MVP now for 14 years. I have a good group of people beyond my AD Solutions team that I can tap on the shoulder to get questions answered. So please rely on us for your Active Directory needs. We really want to help you as much as possible to get these things answered for you. So with that, I am going to let you get back to work. I'm going to let the team get back to work. I thank you for your time, and I really hope to see you at the user conference in early March. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. This is Derek. Until next time, thanks a lot.